the past 10 years, everything paranormal has captured the attention of many people, invaded TV, radio, the books we read, and even in the news. And the popularity seems to keep growing. No longer kept hidden and talked about in hushed voices. Now people are talking around the proverbial water cooler with incidents that happened years ago or just yesterday. Seems many are curious and anxious to tell stories about their own brush with the supernatural. My name is Jackie Meador. I'm Director of Central California Paranormal Investigators, and this is my co-host, sensitive healer and Reiki Master of Casa del Curandero and partner, Krista Erickson.
Together we are going to be talking about things that go bump in the night and even during the day. We are going to take you to places that some say are haunted, meet those who hunt for ghosts, venture into the wilderness in search of Bigfoot, watch the skies for UFOs, discover metaphysical mysteries, and investigate urban legends. Those who are on a journey and committed to researching all manner of the paranormal. We hope you enjoy our special guests and discussions on various paranormal topics. You are watching Paranormal Journeys.
Hello, and welcome to our show. Well, besides me and Krista having new hairdos, this is going to be exciting. We've got some pretty interesting things to talk about. So let's get to it by introducing our guests. Before these two people met, and after they each had encounters with an unknown creature, they began their own separate journeys to research and investigate these sightings. Then they met and married and now continue their journey together. Their goal? To investigate, prove or disprove the existence of undocumented creatures, delve into and record unexplained phenomena, and inevitably discover the truth. These explorers have journeyed into the unknown and have witnessed and experienced phenomenal activity during their investigations. With techniques developed in the early 1990s and with the assistance of like-minded researchers, they continue to seek scientific proof of the elusive creatures in the darkest regions of the remote forests. And well, lucky for us, both are here to tell us about their journey. Please welcome husband and wife, Sasquatch Hunters, John and Montra Freitas. Hi, guys. Come on.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, John.
Thank you for having us.
Mantra. Hi. And you too.
You guys. Mantra, we hug. I think what the last time we saw you was at the conference in March at Allensworth.
Yes, it was, yes. It's been a while.
How'd you like that? It was nice.
It was very great.
Really nice, really nice. I since taken my class back there, so they had a great time.
Yeah, that's a great place.
Kat helped, and then Shannon helped us put it together, so yeah, we had a really good time. Oh, I guess we better get started. I get some reminiscing here.
Say, come on, Jackie.
Yeah, I know. Let's see.
So I want to know, first of all, because this whole show, that's all we talk about is paranormal things. And the Sasquatch is just one of those things that I've always been fascinated by, because it's almost every culture has a version of Sasquatch or the Yeti or Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it. So
Sure.
What got you guys into this?
Well, I got into it, I was 13 years old. I went and saw Patterson Gimlin at the university, Sacramento State University. My parents took us kids there, and that's the first time I ever heard Bigfoot. That was pretty, it was pretty interesting, very interesting, back in, I believe it was 1968.
Okay.
Yeah, a year after they had taken the film.
And the film you're mentioning is probably like the most famous film ever about Sasquatch. I'm sure all of our viewers have seen it at some point. We're actually going to show it a bit later.
Too,
But yeah, so that sparked your interest from a young age then.
Yeah, that sparked my interest from a young age, yes.
And then how did you actually start to investigate? Like, what was that first step to where you are now?
The first time was, I was 15 years old and I was backpacking Big Sur area, and I remembered some of the things that that Patterson and Gimlin talked about, although Gimlin wasn't there, and I can get into that later, but there was a person there that claimed to be Gimlin. But one of the things was the smell of this creature, which was a sulfur type smell, and I remember walking back, we were probably 15 miles back off the highway in this real rugged terrain that I smelled the sulfur, and that's what really then started sparking the interest again. And
Okay.
so it's been a long, at least 10 years since I've been interested in it.
10 years?
We smell sulfur, we think demon.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Right away, it's demon.
Yeah, it's Bigfoot.
Now I know.
Now we have a whole new perspective. So what about you, Montra? How did you get started in this?
Well, actually, I had a sighting of something when I was around 12 or 13 years old, and so I had put a report in with a group of Bigfoot folks that kept record of all that stuff, and got a call from a woman who was investigating my report, and her and I ended up being on the phone for about 3 hours, and then we ended up going out into the woods together and doing our own little expeditions and things, and having some pretty incredible stuff happen, and so it was that was a segue into me actually starting to go out and do that type of thing.
So
But
also from a young age.
yeah, kind of. After I had the sighting, I actually didn't talk about it for many, many years, because it was one of those things that was so absolutely terrifying that I didn't talk about it. And so
I don't blame you. It's hard, especially when you're young. It's hard to
Yeah,
say,
when you're a
I saw
kid.
Bigfoot, I mean.
well, plus people are going to look at you like, right.
Well,
you know.
like
And so
saying you believe in ghosts or you saw a ghost.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're crazy,
Yeah.
because they wasn't taken seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There
And
were
so
very
it
few
was
people.
So it was a long time before I actually was able to talk about it and explain what happened and what I saw, and know that there's other people that have witnessed the same type of thing, and I wasn't alone. But when you're that age, I mean, you just saw the boogeyman. I mean,
Right.
that's like your whole world is rocked because a monster is real all of a sudden when you're a
Exactly.
kid,
Very
So,
isolating.
Yeah.
So do you still have regular day jobs, or is this it?
Oh yeah.
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 Of course,
Both,
right.
yeah.
I
We
mean,
have to be able to afford to go out into the woods.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And I don't know that I
We
would call it a
understand
hobby
that.
as much as into it as you guys
That's
are. I
true.
don't know that I would call it. I don't call what I do a hobby, but I wouldn't call
Yeah.
what you guys do a hobby.
Maybe passion is a better word.
There,
Yeah.
that's a good word. That's a
Yes.
good
Yeah.
passion.
It is a passion.
And you find that balance because you have to work outside the home to pay the bills.
Right.
Sure,
and
sure.
stuff, and pay for all your toys. But,
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Yes.
And what I like is, John, you're a police investigator by
Yes.
day.
Mhm.
So to me, that brings so much more credibility to everything that you do
Mhm.
out in the field searching for Sasquatch. And I think that that's something that people, when you think about any topic in paranormal, but they're like, well, these are just a bunch of quacks out running through the woods or whatever. But no, you're not. I mean, we have, you have very reputable people in all aspects, all areas. But
Yes.
so I like that. That's what your day job is, because it really adds that much more significance to everything that you do, and it's, I think that's important. And plus you have the skills and the techniques to actually go out and do a real investigation.
Yeah, a lot of the, and that brings interest, and there is people that on the fringe of anything, as you well know, there is people that are a little bit more fringier than
Yes.
what I would be. And one good thing is that when we do interview, and she's very good at it too, is we can tell deception and deceit. So, when we're talking to witnesses, it really helps cut through the mustard.
Right.
Yeah, I'd say BS, but the mustard's good.
Well, yeah. But anyway, it really helps, and the people that we associate with is Dr. Meldrum from up in Idaho, and other people, and of course Bob Gimlin became a close friend of ours.
During all your expeditions up to date, is there one thing that kind of stands out that is probably either the most exciting or the most significant?
With me, I can think of one.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. What?
Mine is probably before you and I met, when Kathy Strain and I,
Yes.
yeah, we had some pretty intense situations, and one of which we were at a site that we had gone back to quite a few times, and we're doing some call blasting, which I don't know if you know what call blasting is, but that's
No,
actually
I
something
don't.
that John developed.
That's vocalization?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's,
'cause we were going to talk about that too.
yeah, and he can explain in detail because he's the one who developed that way back when.
And
And
we'll do Nightscream, we're going to talk.
Sure, sure.
yeah, and we were doing call blasting, which is pretty much blasting out sounds of purported unknown species. We don't know if it's a Sasquatch or not, but they're sounds that are not in any sort of database anywhere that match up to any known
Okay.
animal. Run through Texas A&M, you know, different places like that to anyway. And we had, one of the things that was pretty interesting was we had been doing a lot of that during the night, and the next morning there were huge trees right around where we were in that same area that were broken, like just snapped, you know, bigger than my leg, that were just snapped and bent over, like something was really upset. Oops, you know.
Wow.
And that was pretty significant.
Yeah.
And we were hearing sounds and things all through the night, but you don't know what those sounds are, you know. And we recorded some, and of course Kathy and I get to giggling and stuff, so you hear that too. But you know,
You get delirious
So-
in those
That's a
late
nervous
hours.
laugh.
you know,
That's
it
a
gets
nervous
late,
laugh.
and you know, we run out of like candy, and we don't know what to do with ourselves. So,
Right.
but anyway,
Back in 2001, we were doing a radio show out there in the field with a cell phone. I had this Yagi antenna, and it was a live radio show. Anyway, I had Bobo, for people that know him, he's one of the characters on Finding Bigfoot. Good friend of mine, been friend for years and years.
He's funny.
Yeah,
He
he's
is
a great
hilarious,
guy.
yeah.
He's a great guy.
he's a really good guy.
He was up on the hill. I was in a convertible, and we were in a clear-cut area and doing these broadcasts for this show. As a dog and pony, all it was sound effects, and kind of explaining what we do. So we shot off a couple of sounds, and we were having problems with the reception. The host of the show came on during commercial breaks, says, "Can you move a little bit real quick?" And I did, and moved up probably 30 feet, or 300 feet, excuse me, and to a better area. Everything's working fine. I'm sitting there. I forgot my pistol back at where the guy is doing the broadcasting from. And something came right up to me. I couldn't see it. I could hear it, grunts. In fact, if you listen to the audio clip, which you can get online, you can actually hear the grunting. And
And this was really dark out there.
oh, it was
pitch black, right?
yeah. And Bobo's up on the hill looking at me through our one and only night vision at the time. Couldn't see anything. 10 minutes goes, but I still can't see anything. This thing's right up to me. I hear it walk away. And I'm thinking it's a bear, and I'm thinking, what should I do? Should I leave, stay? Figured, well, I'll go ahead and stay. Bobo finally goes over there on the two-way and says, "This thing is looking right at you, John. It's looking right, you can't see it." And he's excited, and now my heart rate is going up now at this point, and going, I didn't know what it was, but he said, "It's looking right at you. It must be 8 or 9 feet tall." Come to find out later in that next day, we did look at the point of view, and it was about 9 feet tall. So it was
No foot tracks, no.
it was hard soil. It was hard to cement. The duff was disturbed. Look for hair, any evidence, couldn't find anything. So
Oh, well. But it was still exciting.
it was very
Your close
exciting.
encounter.
But
Yeah.
he saw it. That was his first sighting ever, and a nurse was up there too with him, and they were passing it back and forth just like normal. You know, can you see? Do you believe? You know, can't believe what I'm looking at. Please tell me. You know, and so it went back and forth for a little bit before they confirmed it over the radio and said, "Yeah, something's looking right at me." So, anyway. This encounter went on for about almost 40 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So it was,
Time
it was a,
then for
It's a really long time to be.
even a ghost to hang around.
I would
Yeah.
have been terrified.
well, yeah, and I didn't have I'm in a convertible top stand. It's only 5 feet away, the tree line where you can't see into it at all. And I'm going, it was pretty comical when we thought about it after. but it was.
It was a hairy, kind of hairy one. You were going through it.
Yeah, yeah.
Pun intended.
Yeah, yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah, no pun intended. Really didn't. So we talk about the Patterson film?
Sure.
Okay, good. Let's see. I think most people are familiar with this iconic photo taken from the video and is possibly regarded as the best photographic evidence so far. The 59-second film has created a lot of controversy over the years with allegations of a hoax that have been discussed, refuted, analyzed, and discussed some more, and still there are those that totally believe and others that think it's a costume. Let's take a look at a copy of the original footage as taken by Robert Patterson and Bob Gimlin, correct?
Bob Gimlin.
Okay. And I have to warn people, it's a little shaky, because at the time, Robert Patterson explained he was just so damn excited.
You can't blame him. I mean, look at this. It's just.
Yeah.
He had jumped off the horse at this time, and he's running after this. Bob Gimlin is on the horse along his side with the orders of to shoot if this thing attacks him. As it turns around, it's looking right at Bob Gimlin now, and it continues on into the forest.
I think one of the things that surprises me about this video is it seems so calm. Like it doesn't care that it's being chased right now, and but it really is some incredible footage.
And I noticed that too. I remarked on it. I noticed that too, that he wasn't running. He was just casually walking away.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's almost 50 years later.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yep.
it's like this has really stood the test of time. Nobody's really been able to say yes, this is real, or know that it's a fake or whatever. But it's the best anybody's ever gotten. I don't know, and I did a lot of research. I didn't see anything came close except for the Marble Mountain, but that was so far in the distance.
Yeah,
you could all you really
unfortunately.
saw was the silhouette. You really
Yeah.
didn't see the actual body. But it's lasted a long time. So
Yeah, you have to remember now, this film was it's a 16 millimeter film that was shot. And this was the time that Planet of the Apes came out. So in comparison of what Planet of the Apes had to this, it was pretty remarkable.
right,
And,
right.
Yeah. As far as sophistication goes.
Yeah,
Right.
Costume
You know,
wise, we're talking
yeah.
about.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's one guy actually saw a hernia on his thigh here in one of the analysts that they did on the film. And and the soles of the feet are white, which would be, that's what you'd expect. You could even see the toes.
I saw a cast that Patterson and Gilman were holding up. That saw a cast of a footprint.
Yes.
Yeah, and it did show remarkably. Had the outline of the toes on it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was quite something.
Yeah.
So here's one of my questions, because 50 years and this is still the best video, one of the best videos out there. Why is it so hard? Why are these things so elusive? What's your theory?
It's so long.
A good analogy would be how many drive-by shootings are there?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
many are caught on film?
Right. No, I.
And a
that-
drive-by
that's a perfect-
shooting,
Yeah.
a drive-by shooting would be about the same amount of time, 2 to 10 seconds. And how many people have caught that on film? One time that I know of, and a news crew was set up, and they actually caught it. So
That
that's
is the best possible.
That's the best analogy I've
explanation
heard.
that I could ever.
it happened so quick, and the first reaction would be, you're stunned, and then
Right.
I better get my camera, and it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. By
Yeah.
the time you get it out and get
Yeah.
your camera
And-
on and in video mode and.
Well, two. I mean, they're so elusive. Nobody's ever come up with a deceased one, and yet I had heard one theory where perhaps they are underground dwellers and they live in caves and whatever. That's why we don't see them as often, and that's why they're so elusive, because they're not really out above ground that much. But then we have the nest that was found on Marble Mountain, of which you, Montra, were the lead investigator on. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Well, that was a guy, Jim Mills, who had filmed that, and he had taken a group of children out, teenagers, with a church group that he would take them out, I think, every year or something like that, called Campus Life. Really, really nice guy. He had come across out in the wilderness, out in Marble Mountains, this structure that had been put together that was kind of woven, and it looked like something could crawl in and sleep. And when he came across it, I think actually in the footage, he was saying, "Oh, gee, you know, looks like a Bigfoot could stay in there," or something like that. There's some reference in there, just joking around. And as one of the kids looks, and on a ridge that's actually pretty far away, there's a little speck of something that's kind of just jumping around and walking around on the ridge. So he gets his camera that I think he'd got as a gift, and starts trying to get a zoom in on it. And unfortunately, it's quite pixelated, but you can see that there is something that looks to be a humanoid shape that is up on a really hard to traverse ridge far away, that's actually coming down. And I believe it was like shale, wasn't it, the material up
Yeah,
there?
it was
real
shale.
slick and
Yeah.
slippery.
But the figure is kind of lumbering down this ridge,
yeah.
really not in a hurry. At one point, you see him shaking his hand, like he's really
Yeah.
frustrated or mad.
Yeah. And it's kind of balancing and coming down this ridge faster than I would want to go down or anything like that. And so anyway, it gets to a point where we are guessing, we think, you know, it turns and maybe sees that if that was something that it had actually constructed, again, we don't know, it turns and looks in that direction, and that's when it starts kind of like frustrated, it appears.
And then there were some remarks of screaming at him, but of course the video didn't pick up the audio.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah. And it's a really long distance away. But
And if it wasn't as though, wouldn't you figure some hair or something would be inside? And obviously you didn't find anything. So
there wasn't anything found that I'm aware of, but you know, I think by the time people had got back up there to actually do the recreation, I don't even know if it was still there, but it's, you know, there was another, if you want to say, nest that Kathy Strain and I had found together, completely different part of the California, and that one was also, it was woven together. They were broken limbs. Nothing had been sawed, you know, there were no smooth edges, and these limbs were not something that anybody I know could break. So they were, you know, something with an incredible amount of strength must have been able to take that branch.
So what do you think about the theory about them living underground as opposed to above ground? Do you think that's a viable theory?
It's hard to say. It could be. We just don't know enough. We really don't. There are a lot of daytime sightings, and then there's a lot of nighttime activity, so it's hard to say. A lot of hunters have had encounters where they see something and it looks so human, they aren't going to shoot it. They don't know what it is.
Right.
And so by the time they kind of come to their senses, like, well, maybe this really isn't a person, it's gone.
Well, and
So-
I think it's interesting that you bring up both the daytime and the nighttime sightings, because it seems like we don't know if they're nocturnal or if they're diurnal. I mean, they're everywhere.
Yeah, and they camouflage so incredibly well that
And it makes me believe too that they don't live in a communal type setting. They live solitary. Like there may be a unit, a mother, father, maybe child unit, and that's really about it.
it could be. There was one instance, in fact, it was up on that expedition with the French film crew, where there had been a hunter, and you'll probably have to fill in the blanks because I don't remember the whole story, but he had been out there deer hunting or something, and it was out on an old logging road. And there was a steep drop off on this side and a steep incline up here where it was all clear cut to a ridge of really thick trees that went up to the top of the mountain. And apparently he had shot a deer, and I can't recall exactly what happened, but he had turned, and coming out of the ridge
Was one yelling at him.
was yelling at him. And I
Yeah.
think it picked up a big, like a log, and was slamming it on the ground like, get out of here, to him, which scared the bejeebies out of him.
Yeah.
And
Almost like a gorilla would act.
yeah, and so later on, after, I don't remember who actually, if it was Dr. York, but someone had gone up and looked for prints and stuff all around that area really carefully. I think you went up, or didn't you?
I didn't find anything in that area, but
But they had
I think
found
there was.
what they thought were 3 sets of prints: the big prints, medium prints, and baby prints.
Wow.
And so it might have been, again, this is all hypothetical because we just don't know. It could have been maybe a male that had come out to defend his little unit or something, I mean, his family or whatever.
Heard the
I don't know.
gunshot or
Yeah, heard the gunshot and
Yeah.
it made him angry, and it's really hard to say, but I think there was a theory that there had to be at least a breeding population of like 2,000 in
Yeah.
order
Yeah.
for them to successfully keep,
Well, yeah, over
Yeah.
all these
keep
years,
going.
there
you
has
know.
to be.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, there
All
has to
these
be
years.
a pretty large number of.
Yeah, and we're talking Native American, I mean, they were
Oh, yeah.
having cave drawings. They were drawing these
Mhm.
unknown creatures in their
Yes.
drawings.
Yeah, yeah.
Thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And every Native American tribe has some kind of,
And I think we have a list,
We
too.
do.
All the names
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
call them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just too consistent
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
to be there.
Yeah.
You've got one or two that, it's kind of
Yeah.
iffy, but
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
a lot of tribes and
And-
names.
I mean, I have a list of probably 20 tribes right here and the different names that they use. I mean, Sasquatch, which is the Coast Salish
Yeah.
tribe, Shookum, which is what the Chinooks called
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
the Yukuts called it the Hairy Man,
yeah,
and the Cheyenne called it Maximista. I
Yeah.
don't like that
Yeah.
one.
It sounds like a car, doesn't it? I drive a
Maximista.
Maximista. Like a new Toyota or something, doesn't it?
I mean, that's
But,
just a few. I mean, but they all have stories,
Sure,
and they're all
yeah.
so similar that it's
Yeah.
it's hard to discredit every single
Yeah.
tribe
You
out
just
there.
can't,
yeah.
You can't.
Sure,
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah, anyone wanting to check out the video about Marble Mountain that Montra was talking about, you can go to a YouTube channel, and I will put that on the screen for you if you want to check that out. But it's an interesting video. Still, I think Patterson is the best, but this one is also probably come to probably a close second. So it's really good. And I know we were talking about the internet, about all kinds of Bigfoots in the Native American society, and it goes back thousands of years. But I mean, nowadays, the general public has no idea what to believe because there's so many people putting hoaxes up there
Yes.
amongst all the real stuff. So how do you decide? I mean, I just saw one 2 weeks ago about supposedly a picture of a Bigfoot out in the middle of the Arizona desert. Nothing but tumbleweeds and scrub brush. I mean, to me, that doesn't make sense.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, that's kind
You
of
mean you
stuff
couldn't
that's
see it?
popping
No?
up, but right.
Well, and then,
No nest
Yeah.
there.
and then let's not even get started on Hank.
Oh yeah, Hank the hoaxer.
Yeah, the Hank the hoaxer. That's because that should be his
boy.
official name. I mean, and that's the problem is you got people that are doing this for our audience. Rick Dyer.
Rick Dyer, yeah.
Yeah.
Rick Dyer is the sheriff deputy that,
Yeah. I mean, I have a whole, I think, 12 pages on him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He
Yeah.
finally admits, or he's like,
well,
Hank
he's
admits.
admitted twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, twice.
Alright.
When are
He
people
got
going to stop
fired as a
believing him?
deputy
Yeah.
because that's not becoming of a law enforcement. You don't,
Don't lie.
regardless. I mean,
Yeah, you don't perpetrate a hoax when
no,
you.
you don't perpetrate a hoax.
Exactly.
And then, of course, he did this again. So now he's supposedly being investigated for fraud because he had a sideshow. I don't know if it's fraud because it.
Oh yeah, he collected all the money. I think we had a list of how
Oh,
much
yeah,
money.
we
He
do have a whole
admitted
list
how
of
much
money.
money he
Oh,
collected.
wow.
And what he did for the audience, what he did is he basically made a clay model and created a rubber suit of a fake Bigfoot, and he's trying to say that it's real and it's being tested. But yeah, twice now.
The original one was a rubber one in a freezer.
Yeah.
And that was 5-8 years ago, something like that. It was quite a while ago.
But now here's the crazy thing is that he just admitted that all of this is a hoax, and yet he's basically saying, "But I have something real that's I'm going to
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, in my back pocket. Yeah.
And people believe
And they will.
him.
They're going to keep. It's like,
And people keep paying to see this thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't.
I-
It's like
Yeah.
it's just like the circus sideshow,
It
or
is.
that that
Yeah.
we used to go and see when we were kids.
Yeah.
The bearded lady and so on and so forth. So
I don't want to talk about him anymore. No.
it's unfortunate, but that's in anything. There's people like that.
Yeah,
But
they are.
so how does the general public, if I'm watching a show or TV or reading something in the paper or whatever, how as a citizen that maybe doesn't really a Bigfoot chaser hunter, but wants to know, is this thing on the level? How do we tell? How do I tell? I mean, are there like yellow flags to look for?
Well, the simple answer to that, which is if it doesn't have the ring of truth, then it probably isn't.
Yeah, listen to your gut.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you have that,
Yeah.
if you have that feeling, then there's a reason why you have that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think common sense comes into play. Like, you're not going to see a Sasquatch in the desert.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What does he eat?
Right.
Where does he hide?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a little too big to hide behind a tumbleweed.
I mean, even just evolutionary wise, he's not
Yeah.
going to be hairy if he lives in the desert. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. Yeah.
Well, there needs to be a viable food source and water.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's enough lizards, and I don't know what.
But
I don't.
I'm 10 tacos worth.
Sure.
So on that same topic, what are some of your favorite videos or photos that you've come across?
Well, Patterson, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Patterson.
Because we know Bob Gimlin too, and so I mean, he's a really legit guy, and
He passed the truth test.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you made a statement earlier about how Gilman wasn't with Patterson when Patterson was traveling.
Which was very interesting. Now,
Right. He
okay,
admitted that. Patterson did admit it and
Yeah.
apologized towards the end.
Patterson. So here's another thing that if I perpetuated a hoax with a friend of mine, and my friend didn't pay me anything that he made out of that, I think I would be blowing that wide open.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Bob Gimlin, out of that film, it was his truck. He borrowed the horses, and he took, a month off from the ranch work to go do this. And he got $1 and a cup of coffee for that movie, for his 50% share, when Patterson was doing this circuit around with a person called Gimlin with him, which Bob never went with him.
Right. But it was not him.
It was not him.
No. And Patterson apparently did apologize to Gilman afterwards.
Yeah.
When they left on the horses to go into the wilderness, were they Bigfoot hunting? Were they actually going out there to see if they could find one?
This was 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks into the whole trip.
Okay.
And they were just riding around, just looking for some signs. Now, they're in an area where there was a lot of prints found, so they didn't just pick out anything. Another thing that is very interesting with this is that they were from Yakima, Washington. They drove all the way from Yakima to Bluff Creek. And that's a 16, 18-hour trip.
Wow.
In a truck, it would be even more than that.
pulling horses down.
So if they were to do a hoax, one thing that I've found that is very consistent is that hoaxes are right off the road. And that's why many times the videos that are hoaxes, a half second before that what they release is a roadway or something that is,
I see.
Yeah.
or after the video. That's why I ask for the whole tape when I look at
Yeah.
a video.
That makes sense. And
Yeah.
because
That makes sense.
Yeah, you're not gonna invest that much time and effort. Although there is people that would go through that extreme, but very rare. Very
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah, it's just, how does the person like me, what do we look for as far as, like you said, use your gut,
Yeah.
follow your instinct, but there's a lot of hoaxes out there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot.
For a whole week, that's all I watched was all these videos and reading all this stuff about, and then all these hoaxes. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
yeah, it really is.
And it's the same thing with ghost hunting and stuff too. There's so many people that
Yes.
Photoshop and do all these
Yeah.
things just to get
Yes.
attention, and
Yes.
and so there's just
Yes.
it's tough.
Okay, if I wanted to start Sasquatch hunting, where would I start first?
Well,
Follow you?
Well, how brave are you?
I'm brave. And
I know
she's
you are.
braver. She's braver than me. So
I'll do
she's
just about
going
anything
down.
once.
She's going down a suspected UFO pit that may be radioactive in a hazmat suit. That's how brave she is.
Wow.
Well, you only live once, right?
I want to have a nice looking corpse.
My dad taught me to live hard and die young.
Yeah.
So,
But have a good-looking corpse.
Well, right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Not one that glows in the dark.
I don't know, that might be kind of cool too.
Actually, yeah, you know.
Whatever.
I'll come back as a radioactive ghost.
They're me.
but really, if somebody wants to start, what's the first
Well,
step? To
just
be
get-
legit.
Just get out there into the woods.
Yeah, just get out in the woods.
Listen for any vocalizations, and you can get more into it as you go along. But you know, nearly 100% of the videos are people just regular people
Yeah.
that just were in the right place at the right
Yeah, it's
time.
by accident, you know.
It's
Yeah.
purely by
Right.
luck and being in the right place at the
It
right
may
time.
be someday that somebody's grandma hits one on the freeway,
Yeah.
and that's or something, and that's how a body is finally found. I mean, who knows? But it's,
Yeah.
you know, I think that if you are out camping and you can get out to enough, you know, of a remote site where you know that maybe there's bear in the area, because if an area can sustain bear, it can likely sustain something the size
Yeah.
of a Sasquatch too.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of the first step, is to find an area
Okay.
where there's a food source and a water source, and kind of go from there.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I always look for evidence of bear, look for bear scat. If I'm kind of prospecting out there, that's what first thing I look for.
And something
And-
we noticed too was the deer migration. Sometimes
Yeah.
reports will follow
Follow
the
deer.
migration of the deer. Wherever the deer are going, you'll start getting reports of activity.
Is Sasquatch
So-
carnivore or is it vegetarian?
We don't know. We've had reports where they've been seen, again, if it's a legitimate report, eating tubers, you know, roots and things, and also reports of. I remember this one kind of because it stood out in my mind. It was just so strange that there were two supposedly Bigfoot, and they were chasing a deer, and one of them got it and broke its back leg, and that was how they caught it. They were kind of chasing it into some sort of a area where they could get it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's legitimate or not. So there have been reports of people thinking that, or finding a deer carcass and just the liver is removed. And from what I recall, I think the liver of
Liver
a
is the
deer is,
most bang for the buck.
yeah, and it's the
Um,
only source of vitamin A, is it?
Mm.
That's actually, I can't remember, I think it's vitamin A, that's
think- yeah, that
actually
sounds
out
about
in the woods from what I remember reading. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
To me, it would make sense if they eat meat. I mean, because if they are a species somewhere between an
Yeah.
ape and a human, I mean, both apes and humans eat meat.
Yeah.
So it would make sense. I don't know why they would be vegetarian.
Yeah.
Biologically
There's-
speaking.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, just
sightings
probably
of them
whatever
being
they
on the
can-
beach, digging for clams,
Oh, okay.
you know, eating meat, eating vegetation. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking Harry and the Hendersons. Harry didn't eat meat, you know. I love that movie. He ate fruit. He was even the deer heads hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
But he
Heart
also sat on a
attack.
couch,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Sit on the couch and watch TV too.
Yeah.
Let's move on to that.
Let's talk about Nightscream.
Yeah.
All right. So, in 2003, a documentary called Nightscream was filmed in Klamath National Park by John.
Yeah, myself and Randy Littlejohn. Randy he's well known in the video game business. He did a lot of the live shots for different video games, and his wife is a writer that did.
I didn't know that about him. Interesting.
Yeah, she in fact she wrote a few of the
Twilight Zone episodes.
Zone,
and,
cool.
and
Yeah.
also,
That I'm familiar with.
She's a big comic book.
yeah, and she also
was-
did, I think, Battlestar Galactica, if
Yeah,
you remember
yeah.
that
Wow.
old
Yeah.
Oh,
series.
wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're really, really cool
Yeah.
people.
All right.
Really
Well,
great
John and his
people.
crew, they take the viewer along for an unforgettable trip into the deep forest of the Pacific Northwest. Now, and this was specifically in search for Sasquatch.
Yes.
And we have a clip. Now, the video is about an hour long or so. We've cut it down to 13 minutes.
Right.
So we're going to go ahead and play that, and we'll watch along.
Okay.
when I was 12 or 13 years old, my parents took me to see Patterson at Sacramento State, and since that point I've been very, very interested in it. Moving up into this area back in '88 is when I became more involved, because this is the mecca of Bigfoot sightings here. This project that I've organized is once again to try and have the successes that we've had in previous expeditions, and that would be the vocalizations, recording them, sending them off to different scientists to try to determine what kind of animal is making it. And the primary focus is, of course, to lure a Sasquatch into our camp in order to document it with video and, of course, with still photography.
I kind of took an interest in this, because when I was 12 years old, I saw one, so I figure it probably spikes my odds of ever seeing one again. Didn't get much of a view. It scared the crap out of my mom when we saw it back in '79. I just got a quick glimpse of it, and what I saw was pretty, well, literally hairy, and I wasn't absolutely sure, but my mom was, so I'll take her word on it as to what we saw that night. So now at that point, I went from being a potential believer to being somebody who didn't really have a choice. When you almost run over the darn thing, you really don't have a choice at that point.
Once we're done here in the Johnson Road, I think we'll probably just go up here real close. We might even go right in here and do the show. I don't know. Closer than what we thought. Johnson Road didn't pan out at all last night, and I'm not real.
Well, is it, as far as not panning out, is it your experience that when you get a response, it's right away? I mean, you get success right away or not at all?
We would, yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I don't get it, if I don't get something that night, the next night's going to be pretty much the same. I mean, there was absolutely no movement at all. Didn't hear any wildlife out here at all. It was completely dead.
That's almost a good sign, no wildlife.
It might be the because they're logging in 3 or 4 different positions.
Yeah, there's a lot of logging.
Yeah, I saw a logging truck go up there while we were up there meeting this afternoon.
Which is okay, because that happened the year before, but they're major logging right now. So let's go ahead and just do this. This area looks more attractive to me. I think
it's closer to where Bobo's saying there's been activity.
Yeah.
But
what's the path?
all the activity I've been hearing is right in here.
Okay. And what we can do is
2 years ago, when my neighbor saw that one in Coyote Creek right there.
And the recent activity is right down on this side.
Both sides.
Both sides.
Both sides equally.
So maybe if we get down in here. Is this accessible right up to here?
No, it isn't. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
We basically couldn't get any further than here. We checked a couple times and couldn't find the access.
But
the thing is, I don't like about this is it's close where people are living anyway, so it could cause some problems. But back in here, Bobo says this is going to be
that's empty. This is where all the people are in here,
right,
and there's probably down in here about 5 or 6 households over that 5 mile area.
I couldn't find a way to get down in here. Maybe you know the area better. And
you got to come in from way down here.
Okay, I'll tell you what.
Oh, along the river.
We heard a scream right after the first broadcast from way down there. But then it couldn't have been the same one probably, because right after that, the big male showed up right unbeknownst to us until John drove up there right up the edge of that tree line up there. And Eric and I were up on the hill up here about 2/3 of the way up. And we just happened to be in the lucky spot at the right time. There was just enough moon for the night vision scope to work where we saw it right over there. And it made some, we heard 3 growls out of it. And John heard more because he was closer. And then last night I was up here doing my calls and stuff, and I did a couple of whacks with a stick. And I don't know, there was just, like tonight there's no noise over there, and last night there was something moving back and forth through there that I don't know what it was.
Okay, I'm gonna go do the primate again.
It's cold out here, man. It's colder than it was last night.
It's pretty cold. I just heard it again.
Did you?
Yeah, did you hear that?
No.
Bobo!
Is it behind you?
Yeah, it's definitely coming from that direction. Bobo, I heard it again.
Did you?
Yes.
Dude, that's a squash.
So you've heard that louder
Yeah.
and closer and more.
It did that noise from a distance until it came into clearing,
Okay.
and then that's when the other one fell.
Okay, let's keep the audio. No more. No, let's keep the decibels where it was. Did you get that last one? Yes, I did. Awesome, dude.
Quiet, quiet. I think the day that I see it with my own eyes will probably be the day that I will be satisfied and I will find another pastime.
There's also 2 interviews by veteran Sasquatch hunters, and that's John Green and John Bindernagel, and that's definitely very interesting because they're going back 50 years
Sure.
when they were doing this.
I
So,
loved listening to
yeah,
those
I did too.
interviews.
I
It
did
was
too.
really cool.
Yeah, they definitely knew. I mean, they live up there. They definitely know what they're talking about. So anyway, you can catch this on Amazon.com and BlueNorthInvestigations.com, and we'll put those on the screen for you so you can get this.
Yep. And it's called Operation Nightscream.
Yes. Okay. We saw a little bit of those vocalization techniques that you were talking about, where you use sounds of other animals to kind of draw what we call triggers.
Sure.
In the ghost business, because we'll bring, if there's a little child ghost, we'll bring a ball and some toys, and those are just triggers. But yeah, but that seems to work for you. I don't know anybody else that uses that. Am I correct, or is there?
There's, you mean as far as broadcasting out the sound?
Right.
Well, since Finding Bigfoot has aired, it seems like there's thousands of people out there that are doing it now, which is, it's par for the course. I think that there might be some problems with misidentification. Maybe somebody's on another red stop broadcasting.
But that was your technique that you developed back in the 1990s.
Yeah, and it's been used for hundreds and hundreds of years by hunters, and of course that Johnny Hunter or whatever it's called, I forgot the name of it, but they broadcast out calls for coyotes and rabbits.
Ducks.
And
Yeah.
exactly. So
Okay.
I just took it to another level.
Yeah.
I got the huge speaker, and
But it pays off. It works.
it
does
does
work.
something. It does something.
It gets the interest of
Yeah.
whatever's out there.
Yeah.
And
you
it
know?
gets the interest of a lot of different animals.
We have a couple of recordings that you sent us that we're going to play. Let's if we can play that first recording. And this one, I think you said was taken in Ohio.
If this was the howl, yes.
Yeah, it's about 7.5 seconds. If we could hear that one. Can we hear that one more time? That first one.
Now, that's a sound also I broadcast out, and hoping for a response
Yeah.
or to draw something into me.
Right.
I do travel around, but I kind of like the base camp concept right now, and that's
Right.
what we're using.
We've got another one.
Yep.
It's a little longer. This one's a little raw. The first 30 seconds are kind of raw footage, raw audio, but the last 30 seconds, I think somebody went in and cleaned it up, but they took out a lot of the background noise, like the static, I think.
It could be. Well, this one, in the beginning, it was a guy that I know that was running after this, and
Okay.
if you listen real carefully, you can hear him breathing.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
brush.
Yes.
He's running after this creature, and it's getting. I mean, it's just way ahead of him.
Okay. 'Cause it looks like in the second part, the second half, it looks like somebody had taken some of the background noise out. I'm trying to clean it up a little bit.
I think this is the first generation,
Is it?
so
Okay.
it might be just that
Well, then maybe I'm wrong.
because he
Okay.
was running and then he stopped, and I think that's probably what happened. Is then,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we hear
Let's
that
hear it.
second recording? See how it's muted?
Yes.
Yeah, this was originally when it was a 3-minute clip. This is what I have here, just a minute, but it's constant. I mean, this
Yeah,
thing was
this is-
screaming
this is-
over and over.
Where was this one taken?
This was taken at Hunter Creek, which is just north of the town of Klamath on 101 in Northern California.
Okay.
The whole community, which is a small community of 150 people, know what this sound is. 2 children just prior to this event here had they were down at the creek, and this Sasquatch was looking at them up on a rock right above them, scared them to death. They ran back home. Shortly after this, another guy goes up there and sees one hiding down behind a tree, a root ball, and this Sasquatch stands up so close to him that he actually sees the whites of the eyes, and this creature kind of just smiles, curls his lips at him, turns around and walks away just like in the Patterson film. Just like that, and he's gone.
Smiled or snarled?
Could be either one. That just
Nice
you know
with a smile.
that's close enough. You need to stay away.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
I think ape
This
behavior is when they're
Yeah.
feeling threatened is when they smile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're
Yeah, I
right.
don't
One
know.
thing he did say is that it did not have canine teeth. It had regular teeth, no canines, which would be indication that it's not just a meat eater. So, which verifies everything else that I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that, when I first hear that, it sounds like it should have come from a jungle somewhere, not Northern California.
That same thing.
It's so very ape-like, those
Sure.
sounds. I mean, it's
This recording, particular recording I sent to Cornell and Texas A&M, all of them say, we don't know what it is.
yeah.
One, I think it was Cornell that came back, we don't know what it is, but it's similar to orangutan. Well, there's no orangutans up there.
Yeah.
This same sound was up in my cabin, and I'm out there in the middle of nowhere, and I hear the same thing from 2 different hills. They're yelling back and forth from
Wow.
two different ridge points. And I'm looking at my 357 going, this isn't big enough. So, I mean, it was pretty unnerving.
Keep a shotgun by the door for that.
Yeah.
So for everyone wanting to find out more information about what you guys are doing, I know you're talking about doing some conference, not a conference, but
Workshops, training.
Thank you. Couldn't find that word in my mind. Where do they go to find you?
Oh, you can go to bluenorthinvestigations.com.
Okay.
We used to have bluenorth.com, but I sold that domain to a fishing company up in Seattle. So
I know, I saw it.
yeah.
Trying to find you.
They have nice boats, but you won't find me. Although you can still write me at John at Blue North. I still have that email if you want to get a hold of me.
At Gmail.
John at bluenorth.com or John at Blue North at. I have to think of all my emails.
Yeah, there's just too many emails.
Yeah.
Blue North
I know.
at Gmail.
That'd be the best
We'll
one.
get
Blue
'em
North
up.
at Gmail.
Yeah.
Good.
But we are planning to have a public. We're inviting the public to go on a Sasquatch hunt
Good.
with like-minded people. Check out the website.
Yeah,
And-
starting in September, you'll be publicizing it, putting it on Facebook.
We'll have details
putting
out
on-
there.
It will be announcing it. They let us know we'll be announcing it. So just keep checking back with you. And they're going to be doing an expedition. And Montra was talking about doing maybe some training workshop and for free. And I told her she should be charging, but she's going to be doing it for free. So just bring your own equipment, camping gear, and whatever else you need. So
And no alcohol.
and with no alcohol. No alcohol.
That goes for any investigation.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't care if you're looking for
Or a big
Bigfoot or ghosts or whatever. You
Yeah,
don't drink.
we don't.
I think that about wraps it up, Krista.
Yeah, I got one more question for you guys.
Oh, okay.
Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti. What's the most popular term? What's the proper term? I've been
Well,
dying to
Good
ask
question.
You know, it's funny you bring that up. There was a just an article not too long ago about Squatch, the word Squatch, and kind of butchering the Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I thought when I was a child, Bigfoot was an awful odd name.
I don't like it personally, but
And as I'm walking out of the theater, I remember this, I'm 13 years old, looking at my feet thinking Bigfoot. it just didn't register as that. But Sasquatch, or we call it Sasquatch.
Sasquatch it is.
Yeah.
That's good enough for me.
Bigfoot, it just sounds so comical. I don't like the name.
It does sound kind of cartoony.
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, but
Absolutely.
Sasquatch, as
Yeah.
I've heard you refer to it a few
Yeah.
times. It's Sasquatch.
I like it.
Squatch.
All
Yeah,
right. Okay, so thank you both so much for being with us, for taking time out
Thank
of
you
your
for
busy
having us.
schedules and joining us today. Again, check out their website at bluenorthinvestigations.com to see what they're up to. There's going to be some exciting stuff on the way. So if you ever wanted to go hunting for Sasquatch, these are the people to go to. All right, so we will see you back for our next show when we talk about more paranormal topics on the last Wednesday of every month. This is always at the same channel, same time, 7 p.m. We hope that you have enjoyed the show. Thank you, Jackie. Your Bivana over there. Go ahead if you have any questions, comments, contact us at paranormaljourneys1@gmail.com. And if you like what's going on, check out our Facebook page. Give us a like to stay in touch. And I think that's it. So again, thank you both very, very much for coming. And on behalf of Jackie and myself,
Take care. Be safe.